Or wait, I
Good
lost you.
morning, everybody. Welcome, welcome. My name is Eva Medilek, and I am super excited that you guys are either joining us live or hopping on the replay. So please take a moment to share in the chat who you are, where you're from, and if you have any ahas or any moments where you have a little bit of a acute awareness or awakenings around anything that we are sharing this morning, please let us know in the chat. We love to hear feedback. So my guest this morning is Gail Sussman-Miller. I don't often have guests, but I'm really excited to have this conversation with Gail because Gail works with women executives who feel depleted by managing virtual pandemic-stressed employees and who have lost their career joy. She helps them reimagine ways to love their work and get joy back. And so the reason why I'm excited to have Gail, because, this year has been a year of challenges, learning new skills that have either increased our stress level, have made us feel inadequate in some ways, but has also given us, I think, insight into what we actually are capable of. But Gail works specifically with you on how to manage that stress and increase more resilience in your life. So welcome, Gail. I'm so happy to have you here.
Thank you. I feel like I'm sitting on that couch behind you, and we're just going to settle in for a chat.
Yeah, my cat. I was on that this morning. It's actually, I usually do my morning meditations here in my office, and sat down and started to have a nice meditation, and my little doggy jumped in and wanted to be in on it. And so I was like, okay. So, right above.
That's great.
I don't know if you can see that.
And I love your life is beautiful behind you.
All you need is love and a dog. And she just came in and really said, yes, mommy, you do. So tell our audience a little bit more about kind of your story and how you got to do what you're doing now and how you help and support people.
Thank you. It's an interesting, sometimes we think, oh yeah, my story's not that interesting. It is interesting the way our lives evolve. So I spent, I don't know, 20 years just kind of meandering from job to job and being a part of the masses that feels that Friday, you just live for Friday. And then at the point where I got laid off, and just after getting married later in life, I call myself a midlife bloomer, baby boomer. Because I got married for the first time at the age of 46. I found my true career passion as a coach at the age of 41. And so I've been coaching now for 19 years. I mean, all of that other stuff was just, well, this seems like a good job, and I think I like this. And then really coming home to a profession that I think was designed just for me. There's been an interesting evolution of starting out the first 7 years working with women. Oh, and I should point out, this is one interesting thing. I did a personal growth weekend a year and a half after my mom died, and she's now gone 25 years this last week, and met a woman who was a coach. I had no idea what coaching was. And then after that weekend, she said, maybe I can help you. And I was being coached when I got laid off and said, that's a natural part of me. What you're doing with me, I want to be that. So it was modeled for me first before I even knew what it was. And that was...
I love that you shared that, because I remember when I was going to work in my commute, I saw this building that said life coaching. I guess a life coach had her office in there. And I used to think, well, who needs a life coach? Like, why do you need to be coached on your life? Don't you just live it? So I had kind of a similar experience to you with not really understanding what coaching was. But as I was coached in personal growth and development, really like, I get it now. It all makes sense, and how much more we can show up for ourselves in our lives with the support of a coach to see our blind spots. It's just amazing.
Yeah, and I sometimes think about life this way, my life this way. So when I did that personal growth, let me go back. I bought my first condo, first property I was a renter for many years. I bought my first property at 41, met my husband 6 weeks later, and he had done the men's personal growth work, the male version of the program I did.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like I bought the property thinking I had been waiting to get married. Like this is what I grew up believing. I didn't buy good dishes. I didn't buy a home. I didn't buy anything saying, well, I'm just waiting to get married. The day I stopped waiting and bought my home, then I met my husband. And it was like, so I picture it like going through doorways. Then you go down the hall further. And then that led to my husband and
Mm-hmm.
that relationship and going through that doorway. And then I was laid off, hired a coach, became a coach. And there are doorways, they just keep opening. Sometimes there's a fork in the hallway, but it's amazing. And what I believe is at the core of why I work with women specifically, and what I think women often need. There is and I think we're in a time right now, an age for women, and women are showing up big time. And that the business world has a patriarchal model. Our government is masculine driven, and we all have masculine and feminine energy.
Of course.
I sometimes rely a lot on my masculine energy. When I see women leaders struggling, it's about how to have conversations, how to have difficult conversations, where to set limits, how to take care of themselves. And during COVID and the pandemic, I think all the places where we haven't been taking care of ourselves, they're magnified. It's
Mm-hmm.
exaggerated. Like,
True.
yeah, giving in to too much Facebook, staying up too late, eating a little extra. We are really being challenged and stretched, and we have so many rules and limitations because of COVID right now.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that for women, it's relying more on their intuition and gut, connecting brain and heart and gut and instinct and trusting that and speaking that.
Mm-hmm.
And I find it makes a big change for women.
So, what is the number one challenge that the clients that you coach are having during this virtual this virtual experience that we're all having, and the pandemic, and so much has gone on in 2020. You just can't pinpoint one thing. But for the people who come to you for help, what is their number one struggle or challenge? And how do you help them through that?
Thank you for asking that. I'm laughing because if someone said, what's your favorite? Coming up with one thing is always a challenge. I'd say it's how to stay connected with their employees and
Mm,
make it work when they're not just dropping by the office. They're used to being in the same space, and it's those in between casual conversations on the way to the kitchen or on the way to the washroom, or I've got this idea. And so now you have to, especially there's all these virtual electronic calendars, you have to get on someone's calendar. Maybe you can text them and catch them.
mhm,
It's how to feel connected and to know what are other people's experiences. So, for example, one workshop that I led, we put everybody in some breakout rooms and they all got to talk. Their biggest comment about the workshop was, we got to talk to each other.
oh, yeah,
They,
I never thought of that in a corporate environment, because I haven't been going to an office in many years now. But yeah, that's a
yeah,
really good point to bring up. You miss that human connection. Humans are wired for connection, even,
I
whether
agree.
it's a good connection or an adversarial connection, we rely on having that human touch. And that's why a lot of people are struggling mentally as well with that loss,
Yes.
and looking for ways to compensate, like you said, with maybe eating a little bit more comfort food, or getting distracted with ways to try to help us feel connected when we don't have that human touch and connection anymore.
Yes. I don't know if you saw the articles were flying in the first 2, 3 months of COVID about Zoom fatigue and,
Mm-hmm.
turn off your own camera. be speaker only, so you're not, because we're very distracted with studying everyone's home environment and all these moving faces, and you feel like you're,
Oh
they
my
were just,
God, I do that all the time with the newscasters. You know how
yeah,
they've been broadcasting the news from their homes, and I'm looking at their lighting. Like my husband's a photographer, so he kind of got in my brain sometimes about look at their lighting. Why do they have that in the background? And they so like, and we're like, oh my God, they live in that kind of house. It was a fun thing for us to do.
it is, but it also is distracting,
Exactly, yeah.
and it's tiring. So
Mhm.
when you want to have a chat with someone, it's more effort. So I don't think I will. And in one organization, the younger consultants are not, I feel that they're just being given the work to do, but they're not being mentored as much because
Mm.
everyone's stretched differently too. You know what's funny? I saw that one that earring needed fixing.
It was distracting me too. I was like, oh my God, look at that.
Not hanging right.
You know what? I also love the unexpectedness of being live and live TV. And because, I think you had mentioned as well that you're a kind of a recovering perfectionist. And those of us who are perfectionists really have an opportunity to grow into accepting when things aren't perfect and mistakes happen, and you're doing a live interview and the dog barks because the mailman came, or the doorbell rings, or the phone rings, and all of this stuff happens, and to really just be okay with it and to relax into it, because the things we get ourselves stressed out over really impacts not only our
A
health but our
lot.
mood. Yeah.
I've seen my client, one of my a CEO I work with, her 4-year-old pops in, when she's got the whole company on Zoom. It's just
Mhm.
things are more informal now.
Mhm.
And it's really funny. The other thing about not being in the office together, she commented, was you don't see much more than from here up. And
Mm.
one of her colleagues was pregnant and she had no idea, and she put in for maternity leave, and she was huge. And she said, if I was in the office, I would have known.
Yeah,
The,
yeah,
the things you see in the, oh, you're limping. Is something wrong with your foot? We're just not, we're just these faces.
yeah.
I think building rapport, and literally, especially for very more linear left brain thinkers, is start out by just saying, so how are you handling this? Let's just talk
Mhm.
a little before we do business.
Yeah.
Doing that with their clients, doing that with each other, not just, okay, it's 11:01 and what's our agenda?
No, I love that you preference that, because one of the issues that I've uh, been stuck in my craw a little bit about people who are
Yeah.
influencers and in leadership position is really not presencing what's happening in the world and checking in with their communities. And so many people want to get to business as usual, let's make money and all of that, but there's a really important component of connection that comes in when you presence the elephant in the room, whether it's the uprising around racial and social justices and inequality, or whether it's around the political climate that those of us who live in the United States have recently experienced, whether it's the effect of the pandemic, whether family members have gotten sick, you've gotten sick, the
Yeah,
job
you have
loss and the
losses.
economic loss that's
Yes,
related
yeah.
to the pandemic, and the fear that we have, and to really gloss it over and not have a check-in, like, how are you, how are things going, how can I
Yes.
support you, what do you need, is something that I've seen missing in some of the leaders that I was following, or groups that I was a part of. And so just having that presence of mind, and I love that you said that, to check in with people and create the connection before going into business. Love that.
I want to acknowledge you. You don't know this, but I started watching some of your coffee conversations right after George Floyd, and you helped raise my consciousness on a lot of things. And I had the opportunity to speak with a prospective client who is Black woman.
Mm-hmm.
And I started out just saying, well, so what's going on for you? And how are you handling this? And how are things for you? And she so appreciated that I wanted to know that. And her son was going to college, and that was the biggest trauma, was my baby's leaving like next week.
Oh,
Well,
wow.
how are you handling that? Not like, oh, so as a leader, what are the goals you want to do? What's going on for you? And I feel that there's more valuing of human life and of individuals in this time. And I
Mm-hmm.
think, people have lost family members. I can think of a couple people whose parents in their 90s died in another city and they couldn't see them before they died. Just tremendous heartache.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting because I remember there's a workshop that I do, which is part of this resilience piece. And I was introducing it to a company, and they said, in my first couple of slides are about, so here's what we're going through. And he said, well, we all know what we're going through. I said, yes, but I want you to know the impact on us. It's not just bringing your computer home and setting up in your kitchen to work. It's not just that. And once you've got your Zoom and everything, you're all set. This is disruptive.
Yeah.
And I think for women especially, and of course those that have little kids, my heart goes out to them, keep helping them be homeschooled. I can think of my own marriage. There are times where my husband will say, well, I'm just too tired. And I said, well, I don't care about being tired. This has to be done. It's just a way that we say, this needs to be done, and we're going to make sure it gets done. And so I want to, part of this consciousness that I help, there's a tool that, your viewers might be interested in that I call PIES, PIES. And if you can picture, and this is my water bottle, a container like this, a bud vase that just holds one flower. I don't have a handy flower, but picture one flower. And going from 0 to 10 and measuring for your physical energy first, from 0 to 10, how are you feeling physically? Just take a snapshot. I don't have any aches. I'm relatively energetic. I've been fed. Yeah, I'm like a 9. So you you just draw in the water, drawing this on paper up to this level. Then we do one for intellectual. How are you intellectually from 0 to 10? Have you been poring over spreadsheets all day and your brain hurts? Are you understimulated, overstimulated? And you rank that one. Then emotionally, how are you doing emotionally? And you can be sad, you can be angry. Is it interrupting your ability to function? Do you understand where it's coming from? Are you kind of processing you're okay? Or you're just, I need a hug so bad I can't see straight. And ranking that.
Love that. It's my love language, by the way.
Yeah.
Physical touch. I need a hug. I just need a hug.
This is my biggest heartache for people who are single and isolating. I have family members who are alone. The last one is spiritual, which is an interesting one to bring up in the business world. And the way I describe that is a sense of connection to self, a sense of connection to humanity, and if you believe in a higher power, a connection to higher power. And then I have them rank all of them, and then they look at all 4 vases and see, well, where are levels high and low? And the next step is, what drains you? What things do you know drain you physically, intellectually, emotionally, and spiritually? And writing them down in those categories. One thing is absolutely sure, and I proved it with myself, is the news is so draining. Watching TV news in particular, because it's geared to be catastrophic and to get you all churned up. Limiting that, not getting enough sleep, and we know some of those. And then the other side of it is what replenishes you in those 4 areas?
Mm-hmm.
What can you count on unequivocally that will bring you joy every time you do it? And just managing the energy like you would, budgeting your energy like you would time, like you do money, and saying, I've only got so much. So literally, when it comes to people putting appointments on their calendar, we just see 9, 10, 11, 12. How much energy will this first meeting take for you?
Mm-hmm.
Is this going to be an easy meeting, or it could be a little controversial? And then giving yourself some space. The back-to-back meeting thing is so prevalent in business.
You hit the nail right on the head with that. That's something I coach my clients in all the time, is the transitions. You've got to build in time for transitions to release the energy from your previous task or meeting or client or whatever happened, and to re-energize yourself so that you can show up on your A game for your next task. And even transitioning from work mode to spouse and partner and mom and dad. Yeah. And it doesn't take much time, 10, 15 minutes, even 5 minutes. I've got
to look out of the window.
4 minutes, It's like a racetrack, cars on a racetrack. They stop for pit stops. We don't do it for ourselves.
Scientifically, it's been proven that if we just look through a window at a tree, we get the benefit of nature. Mm-hmm. It's that powerful. And I know a lot of people are glad to have given up commutes, an hour and a half, maybe 3 hours round trip. Mm-hmm. But these women have realized that was my only alone time.
Yes.
I now have no alone time, and the kids are waiting right outside the door the minute they're done.
Yeah.
And so I help them recreate a new commute time, whether it's podcasts before you leave your office, a walk around the block, depending on your climate.
All of those.
Separation. Yeah. I love it. And it's wrapping up one thing that happened and getting ready to be or take a break. Or it's challenging, and it's more challenging because even with back-to-back meetings back in the office, you got in the elevator or you went down the hall. Now you just click out of one Zoom and you're right into another. That's
I think sometimes I go to the bathroom. Like sometimes you got to take your camera off and put it in check. I would take a potty break. I mean, these things are so real for a lot of us, and just really managing our mental and physical energy and stamina around that has been a transition. So thank goodness that people have you and people like you and me to really help them thrive in these conditions, not just survive in them, because we really want to up-level that. Surviving is just not dying, pretty much, but we want to really live fully and vibrantly in whatever conditions we are in.
I totally agree. And the thing I think that I'm finding about the pandemic, even when weekends come, we're spending so much time in these 4 walls. Mm-hmm. And there's sort of no let up. There's no total abandonment. I mean, people are doing different things. I'm still isolating pretty much and ordering everything online and having things delivered. So there's it's just life is different. And look at what people are needing to do to modify Thanksgiving. So many Thanksgivings tomorrow are going to be. Well, I'm doing 2 Zoom Thanksgivings with my side of the family and with my husband's. Mm-hmm. It's just gratitude is a really grounding, helpful thing, even in the moment. Choosing how we react to all of this, that is a choice. That's the place where we have power. Even though this feels so powerless, this whole experience.
Yeah. That I have a formula that I use. You have S plus R equals R. You have your situation plus your reaction or your response equals the results.
Oh, so I like that.
You can react or you can respond, which is react responsibly, so to speak. And that has a direct effect on the outcome or the results in a situation. And we all have choices. Oh, Gail, this has been really wonderful having you here and sharing your insights. So how can people get in touch with you?
My website is www.inspiredchoice.com.
Oh, I
And
love
I'm connected to you on Facebook, so I'm on Facebook,
Awesome.
and I'm on LinkedIn.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you for sharing. You know, it's a really good reminder for us that we do have choices and we can affect the outcome, our results based on those choices. So thank you for the work that you do in helping women manage all of this, because I know a lot of us have at different points are struggling to, I hate to use the word new normal because it's become cliche, but an
Yeah.
ever-changing normal is what I would say, because I think it's new every 2 or 3 weeks, actually. So our ever-changing normal, whatever that looks
Yeah,
like.
there's a lot of unknown out there, but I'm so glad you're in the world. I'm so glad to get to spend this time with you, and wish your viewers and you a really grateful Thanksgiving.
Yeah,
Healthy, safe, and
Thanksgiving.
grateful.
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving, everybody who's in the US. And for those of you who are watching overseas, please go to Gail's website, see what she has to offer for your businesses and your communities. And we will see you all next week. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thanks, Eva.
Bye.
Bye.